Y'all ready? Okay. Call to order the Tuesday, September 6, 2022 meeting of the Board of Commissioners at regular meeting. If you all will stand with me, we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance first and then an invocation. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we remain standing, Lord, we just said unto God, and we pray that in everything we do, it will be pleasing to you. Thank you for those who are present and for the conversations we will have and the decisions we will make. And may it be pleasing to thee. Amen. All right, the agenda as written is before you. Are there any changes?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to ask that we, after the meeting, that we go into closed session for 143-318-11A3A6, and also request the Chief of Police and Detective Wilson be a part of that meeting. Also, Mr. Gene Jocelyn is here for a presentation for Bike Fest, and we also have a proclamation that we need to do.
Okay. Everybody understand the changes? All in favor of the agenda as amended, please raise your right hand. It is unanimous, Madam Clerk. All right. Let's see. I'm going to ask Sean Johnson to come forward. Always been someone I would look up to. And in that spirit, we, with the consent of the board, would like to do a proclamation in honor of Sean Johnson for your service to the town of Anger. Sean has been employed by the town of Anger since May 18 of 2015. He has faithfully and conscientiously served the town of and its citizens for 7 years, initially being the only employee in the planning department to serve as code enforcement officer and planning and permitting technician and whatever else. And Sean has since grown the planning department by adding 4 employees and becoming the planning director. He has earned the admiration of those with whom he has come into contact, the affection of his fellow public servants. Sean has been a powerful influence for Anger's rapid growth and progress. Therefore, I, Robert K. Smith, Mayor of the Town of Anger, along with the members of the Anger Board of Commissioners, express our sincere appreciation and gratitude to Sean Johnson for his vision and leadership that helped put Anger on the map. And on behalf of our entire community, do wish him good luck and good health in his new role. Bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the board. You'll hear from me enough with current agenda items. I just want to say it's been an absolute honor and a privilege to serve the town of Anger. I've learned an incredible amount in the last 7+ years that I will take with me on the rest of my journey. I'm starting a new chapter into the private sector, which I'm very excited about, but you'll be seeing me around. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Wow, we're going to miss you.
And Mayor, we typically call these meetings the Sean Show.
Yes.
So we're really going to miss him.
Man, Well, we'll have to get somebody tall, so we won't go backwards. Gene, you got something?
First, second, what does that mean? Wow. I wanted to come and thank the board for a great year this year, for letting us use the Depot Square in the town for putting on the Andrew Bike Fest. It was a wonderful year, great year. A lot of people showed up. We were close to $20,000 in revenue coming in to give to hopefully to some of that to the kids. We're still doing some more things. We moved our ride to later on in October to give us more people to stay at the function this year. And I wanted to make sure I also thank Jimmy Cook and his crew for doing a very good job, and especially the police department. They've always taken care of us over the years. It's a very big appreciation for what they do for us in a timely manner and taking care of us out there. At the same time, I was hoping to try to start up for next year and see if I can get approved for next year. Same thing, first weekend of June. It's always the first weekend in June, and do the same setup as we did this year, if possible. So I am asking for that again this year. But again, thank you. The kids, thank you, because they really need it, especially with inflation nowadays. Inflation has caused a lot of people to tighten their pocketbooks and not give as much. But we work hard every day to get children, try to get rid of this brain cancer and stuff. So I'm just bringing that to the board and trying to get it in before it gets too late and we can't get it going.
Okay.
Well, Mayor, I make a motion that we approve Bike Fest for 2023.
With the same conditions as
Yes, sir.
this current year. Okay. Is there any discussion of that?
I'd just like to say, Gene, instead of thanking us, we should be thanking you for all you do for these kids and the
Excellent.
community
Yes,
here.
Thank you.
You do amazing work.
I appreciate it, but it's not just me. It's
I know.
It's
the whole group.
Your group of people.
Yeah.
You did an excellent
Right.
job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Without further discussion, all in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. It is approved.
Thank you guys.
Thank you,
very much.
Jane.
Thank you.
All right. In each meeting, we allow and encourage public comment. We hear what you say, and we want to hear what you say, but we're not always in position to take action immediately on what you say. But we will certainly listen, and we invite those who have signed up to come forward. And if you will state your name and your address, we'll be pleased to hear you. Mr. Chuck Carey. And we would ask that you limit your comments to about 3 minutes.
Well, okay, thank you. I'm Chuck Carey. We live on 203 Blair Drive in Andrew. We're kind of new. We're from the New England area originally. We've been here another 7 years now. We love this town. It's great. I have grandchildren in Willow Spring. That's why I came. And we bring them here all the time because there's so much stuff for the kids here. You know, that where they're not an incorporated town, it's kind of all spread out. So I thank everybody for that. And what we loved about this town, you know, like I said, we're from Massachusetts. It's so congested, and taxes are so high, and the roads are congested. And we love here how I love my neighborhood. I love my neighbors. What I wanted to say is, you know, I'm all about growth, smart growth. I'll keep it short. But when I see in Fuquay, I don't want to happen in Anger. I mean, I don't even want to drive through Anger. To Fuquay anymore. We only go there when we have to. I have a business with my son, and we're all over the triangle. We're in construction too, mainly roofing and siding, and so I'm all over the place. But you know, like I said, Fuquay Varina, and I'm a member of the Fuquay Chamber as well. I mean the Fuquay Varina Chamber of Commerce, and as well as Anger. And what I've seen, you know, over the years is with that interaction, is like a tire that just came off a vehicle, just passing the vehicle because it's out of control. And I don't want to see that for this little town. So I agree, you know, you got to have growth. You can't be stuck in the past, you know. But you got to do it smart. And you put too many houses in one place. You got a lot of kids that got to hit a school system. I'm a grandfather. My kids go to Johnson County because that's where I live. So it doesn't affect me. And I'm perfectly happy to pay my taxes. I shouldn't say I'm happy to pay taxes. I'm sorry about that. But you know, I support the youth, and I understand that. But what I see, and I'm not a professional in that field, is it's going to be too many children and not enough schools. That's a big priority. Like I said, the traffic, and I know we're getting the bypass, but Fuquay traffic is crazy. It's just a real strain to put too many houses in a small area, high density. That's what I wrote on the sheet. I'm not about people making developments, but the high density doesn't work. And like I said, I used to live in Plymouth, Massachusetts 30 years ago, and they put a code in there that, and they have 110 square miles, it's the town of Plymouth, Massachusetts, but they put in there you couldn't build every lot had to be 3/4 of an acre. Now, that may sound excessive to some developers, but that was they put in it. I don't know if it's still there because I haven't lived there in 25 years, but they could see the town growing really fast and taking advantage of all the open land they had, and they said, we got to pull the reins in a little bit. And now it's a great, my youngest son lives there, he's an engineer, and it's nice. It has some new developments, it has a lot of we could use some more, and I don't know where to put it, but some commercial, industrial stuff that brings in a lot of tax money, not $1,500 a year, So that's my idea. I'm not a professional, just a guy. Look at that, I made it just in time.
Right on.
Thanks for your time.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. I lived in Fuquay when it was 5,000 people, which is smaller than Andrew is right now. So, all right, Steve Wicker.
Mr. Mayor, he's going to speak during the public hearing for the rezoning request.
Why don't you wait until then, Steve, and we can use the projector to supplement what you want to say.
Well, I'm happy to speak now, but I do want to speak at the public
Okay.
hearing on that. Thank you for being here tonight, and I appreciate what each of you do to serve our community. I'm Steve Wicker. I'm a native of Harnett County and grew up on the Northern Farm right south of town. Been in our family since 1798, as far back as we can find a deed, before Harnett County was a county. We have done our very best to preserve our rural environment and our agricultural community, and that is so important to us. Soil conservation is very important to us. Also, water resources are very important to us, so we have a lot of things that we very much concerned about. Our friends, my neighbors, my friends all my life are right here behind me, and they own the farm that they're selling for this development proposal, and they'll always be my friend. I'm not here opposing them. I'm just concerned about some of the issues involved in the project. So, but anyway, I'll wait and speak about that
Okay.
at the appropriate time, if that's all right.
That'll be fine.
But I did want to have the map up so that what I have to say it has more meaning than just hearing something.
Right.
So
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Val DeMuro.
Hi.
I want to pull the microphone down just a little
I'm Val
bit.
DeMuro. I live
Yeah.
at 245 Blair Drive in the Windsor subdivision. I am an original owner, so you can tell from my accent I'm not from Harnett County originally, but I have lived here for 28 years. I've seen a lot of different things happen through those years, and I've talked at a lot of different times, especially in the past. The most recent time I talked was when someone was proposing the low-income housing apartments that were going to be put on Tippett Road, which, thank goodness, was voted down. My daughter lives in Whetstone West. That is a high-density area. If you try to get a fire truck down that road, you're going to have difficulty. I don't want to see that happen off of Tippett Road again. It gets to the point where if I go to see her, I am dodging cars because the lots are so small and the driveways so short that you just cannot get down there without almost hitting somebody. If you haven't driven down there, you need to. I don't want that to happen again to Anger. What I see is Anger is in a great position right now. I worked in Holly Springs and knew the late Dick Sears very well because I was involved with the Chamber of Commerce. Dick was a visionary.
It was.
Dick didn't allow everything that came along to Holly Springs to be passed. He was a visionary. He saw the opportunities, and guess what? Anger has that opportunity right now. Don't go ahead and put less than 10,000 square foot lots. All you're going to get is congestion, and just remember what I said about Whetstone West. The high density is not where this town needs to go, and it doesn't need to. It has the opportunities will come along in the very short term. Fuquay is out of room. Holly Springs is now out of room. So I would just ask you to consider that as you make your decision.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Tony Orzel.
Hi, Tony Orzel. I live at 65 Windsor Drive. And like the previous speaker, I've lived there for 26 years. I was the original owner of the house that's there. And discussing the same thing people have talked about. We need to grow smart. I mean, even now, just it takes me 10 minutes to get in through Anger when I come home from work. You put in high development houses along that road, traffic on 55, it's going to be like everybody's saying, it's going to be like Fuquay. We got to grow smart, like the other people said. We know we have to grow, but we got to do it smart. We can't put high density houses in, even if they're very nice. This high density, it's just going to cause too many problems. And like I said, I don't want to see it becoming like another Fuquay with all the problems they have there because they didn't think through. They just passed everything and said grow. I think we can be better than that and still keep some of our nice small town atmosphere, but have smart growth.
Okay, thank you, sir. Edward McCready. McCready or McCready?
Yeah. How you doing?
Which is it, McCready or?
McCready.
McCready, all right.
How you doing? My name's Ed McCready. I live at 306 North Broad Street across from the fire department. This is my first meeting. When I walked in, I seen a sign-in paper. Didn't know I didn't have to sign it. I just thought
Right.
I had to, but I do echo everything that everybody's saying here. I've owned a business here, Eddie's Pawn, for 10 years now. And in the 10 years, I've seen traffic. It's just horrible now. I mean, trying to get out of the shopping center at 6 o'clock, it's almost impossible. So, but sorry I signed the paper, my first time here, but thank you very much.
Welcome aboard. Okay. Sherry Delbridge.
So I want to speak about the zoning. So should I go ahead and speak now about that?
Well,
Yes?
if you would, we can reserve your comments to when it comes up in the agenda. If you're going to speak about one of the subdivisions.
Yes.
Okay.
So we can do that, but I would like to say too while I'm up here.
Okay.
That, I'm Sherry Delbridge, and my husband Tony and I live at 241 Blair Drive. And we have been there over 28 years. And my feelings about this subdivision going in right on top of my house, which you'll see when they put it up, I guess I feel the same way Mr. Gardner did when our Windsor subdivision was built 28 years ago. So I just wanted to say that while I'm here, and I'll reserve the rest when it comes up.
Thank you, ma'am. Is it Jay Powelson?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I also have comments about the rezoning request on Old Lewis Creek Road. You want me to wait?
Just if you want to reserve it until then, yes. Okay. All right. The next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. And that only includes the approval of the minutes for August 2nd meeting. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make a motion, Mayor, to approve the consent agenda for August 2nd.
Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay. And the consent agenda is normally, folks, just, I mean, the minutes are the minutes, you know. So. Okay, public hearings. We've got two conditional rezoning requests. So, Sean, if let's see, the first one is 47 acres on Old Boys Creek Road. Application to rezone the 47 acres from RE30, which is the county zoning, to CZ, conditional R6. Do we need anybody sworn in, or is they just come talk? Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay, your first agenda item under public hearing number 1 tonight, like the mayor mentioned, is a conditional rezoning request submitted to the town by Meritage Homes. The property in question, just over 48 acres, located on the western side of Old Boys Creek Road, just south of Andrew's current town limits.
Ron, could you scroll down a little bit?
This is a picture of the vicinity map to give you reference. This is the Windsor subdivision where many who have spoken tonight live. This is Clearfield on the other side of Roe Adams Road. For reference, this is Old Boys Creek Road where it splits at Highway 55 headed south towards Coates, right here. And across the street on the other side of Old Boys Creek Road is that Easley property that was previously approved for a conditional R6 rezoning a few months back. As we always do, we look at our zoning compatibility chart on page 2 of your staff report if you're following board. Wanted to point out this screenshot on the projector here, this dark yellow color, I'll call it. That's our RA30 zoning district, the zoning district that most of our ETJ holds outside of town limits. Across the street, like I mentioned, that's a conditional R6 piece, the Easley tract I referenced. Approved a few months back by it was a Meritage Homes project. Current zoning is RA30, proposed tonight is CZR6, same as across the street. I wanted to point out the main difference between the two is the minimum lot size allowed. RA30 requires a larger 30,000 square foot lot, like we typically see in our rural areas, whereas the CZR6 district will set a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. You'll notice that the P in the chart on the right side of the screen here is highlighted. That is because this is a conditional rezoning, and the only use that will be built, if approved, is single-family housing. Here is an aerial screenshot from Harnett County GIS to show you the land in question. Currently and historically has been farmland here. This is the Windsor subdivision to the north here. A couple other projects that I'll point out in the near vicinity. Easley tract that I've referred to, that's going to be called Williams Pond subdivision. There's Vaughn Farms across the other side of Highway 55, Cambridge existing subdivision to the north, Clearfield to the northwest, Dupree Farms just south of that, and Myrtle Manor off of Gardner Road to the southwest. As you can see, this side of town is becoming a desirable location for new development. Like I mentioned, the parcels in question, just over 48 acres. Surrounding land uses will currently include medium density residential, as well as we do still have some agricultural uses in the vicinity. Services available. The developer is required upon annexation and site plan approval to extend Town of Andrew water and sewer to serve their new subdivision. That is a typical developer paid for installation, and the transportation will be accessed by Old Boys Creek Road in 2 locations, which we'll talk about here in a minute. As we always do when we consider changing our zoning map, we consider our comprehensive land use map. You'll notice that there's two different colors for the parcels in question, the darker yellow being the medium density residential classification, with that lighter color being the low density residential classification. The CZR6 does align with the uses in the low and medium density residential classifications called for by our comp plan. Wanted to point out that the subdivision proposed before you tonight comes out to 2.8 units per acre. We get that number by dividing the total proposed lot count, which in this case is 136, by that roughly 48 acres, and you get your units per acre, a planning term that we refer to as the density of development. Staff evaluation is on page 4 of your staff report. You can see my recommendations. I won't read them line by line. I will get to the proposed conditions and subdivision plan, but I did want to make the board aware that staff recommendation is for approval of this rezoning if the attached conditions are approved along with it.
Sean, will you explain the difference between just regular R6 and conditional R6?
So in a standard rezoning scenario, the developer who has his rezoning approved is only required to comply with the rules in the ordinance for that zoning district. No more, no less, right? In a conditional zoning district, a developer is required to, number one, declare one use or list of uses he's proposing, and number two, enact appropriate conditions that go along with this proposal, such as total lot count, lot size, setbacks, buffers, turning lanes, etc., all of which we'll go over.
And if it were just a zoning request, none of that would be before us.
They would be only held to the ordinance minimums, right, without the conditional. Absolutely.
Sean, if you don't mind, you might have already explained it, but for me, it's showing a total lots of 136 total lots, which 45 of them will be 10,000 square foot or bigger.
That's right.
But on the developer density paperwork you gave us here, it's total lots 87. What's the difference there?
That's the next rezoning on your agenda. The one above that, it says 136. Should be row number 15.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Sorry about that.
I'm good. So like I said, staff recommendation is for approval of the rezoning with those conditions which we'll go through. Wanted to also point out that the planning board did review and recommend approval of this rezoning as well, and they actually added a couple conditions on the list, which is before you tonight as well. The board should have 2 8x11 copies of the proposed subdivision plan to show you the overall layout, lot count, street configuration, buffering, open space, etc.
Do you have the special conditions that you could put up so that people could see them?
I don't think we have a projector copy. I can certainly read through them.
I think that would be a benefit for those in present.
Just to give everyone in attendance a general overview of what's going on with the proposed subdivision plan. On the top of the page here, this is Old Boys Creek Road, which runs south of town. This is proposed site access 1 off of Old Boys Creek. This is proposed site access 2. We will have 2 entrances. The developer has proposed additional widening of Old Boys Creek Road to include a right turn lane serving both of these entrances. Did want to point out that the developer's traffic impact analysis did not call for improvements of Old Boys Creek Road based on current and projected traffic count, so the developer has offered this condition in excess of what the ordinance and what staff could require. The proposed streets within the subdivision will be 50-foot wide public right-of-ways. The street widths will be 29 feet back of curb to back of curb, which is the town's latest standards and specs. There will be curb and gutter and sidewalk on every side of every proposed street, in addition to the entire frontage of Old Boys Creek Road. So there will be no open ditches, on Old Boys Creek Road or anywhere inside the neighborhood except potentially for drainage purposes. There will be sidewalk which stubs both north and south of both proposed entrances on Old Boys Creek Road. The more yellow color, I'll call it, on the left-hand side of your page here, those are the larger 10,000 plus square feet lots, as you would commonly see in your R10 zoning district, whereas these lighter tan colors, I'll call them, are your smaller 6,000 plus square foot lots, as you would typically see in a standard R6 zoning district. This lighter green color in between the proposed lots, that is the developer proposed open space. What that means is it will remain undeveloped in perpetuity, permanently preserved within the subdivision, large portions of which will be active recreational areas. There is a proposed walking trail which is almost impossible to see that runs in between the larger and smaller lots right through here, through that green open space, which ties into the backs of the sidewalk to allow a pedestrian loop, if you will. There are also areas preserved for stormwater management, which at this point are just placeholders, those larger blue bubbles on your colored rendering, as well as I believe there is also an existing pond which is to be maintained, is my understanding. One more thing I want to point out before we get into the conditions. The entirety of the development, difficult to see on this less than colored rendering, but the entire development will be surrounded by a landscape buffer. And there are specifics to that buffer I'll go through on the conditions list, but I did want to point out there will be crepe myrtles proposed along the entrance roads as requested by the board in previous subdivisions and the planning board last month. There will be 15-foot landscape buffer along the southern and this will be western edges of the proposed subdivision here, with a wider 20-foot wide buffer along adjacent to the Windsor subdivision running along the north side here, a minimum of 20 feet. Now the ordinance lays out exactly what the developer's options are for those landscape buffers, which could include a berm planting combination and or fence or wall combination to make up that buffer. The remainder of which will be a mulched area between the backs of those lots and the adjacent residences. Does the board have a copy of that front and back condition sheet?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Any
Sean,
questions?
before you go any further with the conditions, I'd just like to make the board aware that later on we'll be discussing some issues with the town attorney that could affect the conditions to be incorporated by the zoning requirements. I just want us to keep that in mind before we.
Okay. We have a total of 16 proposed conditions to be incorporated in the zoning district if approved. I'm going to read through these one by one to make sure everyone is aware of what's being proposed tonight. Number 1 says the parcel in question shall only be developed with single-family residential lots. Number 2 says there shall be no more than 136 lots total on the parcels in question. In the case of a reduction in that total lot count, based on unforeseen design constraints, the planning director may approve minor adjustments. In other words, they cannot add or increase the lot count, but they could reduce it. Number 3, the minimum lot size shall be at least 6,000 square feet. Number 4, there shall be at least 45 of these lots greater than or equal to 10,000 square feet. Number 5, the minimum lot width shall be 50 feet. 6, the minimum setback shall be as required in the R6 district. 7, there shall be a southbound right turn lane installed to serve each development access on Old Boys Creek Road. And these improvements shall be installed per DOT standards prior to the recordation of any lots showed on the subdivision plan. Number 8, in addition to the turn lanes described in the condition, any improvements recommended by the traffic analysis shall also be installed. Number 9, there should be a minimum of 12 acres of open space dedicated in the proposed subdivision. open space shall be developed in accordance with Chapter 6 of Andrew's ordinance. 10, a 20-foot vegetative buffer will be provided along Old Boys Creek Road, which shall be installed per the Type A buffer standards in Section 7.3 of the ordinance. Number 11, where the 70-foot wide lots, that's those 10,000 plus, are located within 20 feet of the western and northern property lines, the 20-foot vegetative buffers will be provided, also installed per ordinance standards. And number 12, where the 50-foot wide lots, that's your smaller 6,000 square footers, where they are located within 15 feet of the eastern and southern property lines, a 15-foot vegetative buffer will be installed per ordinance standards. 13, the property shall be developed with 2 or more of the following amenities: pedestrian walkways, benches, gazebos or shade structures, play lawn, or petway stations. Number 14, there should be curb gutter and 5-foot sidewalk installed throughout the proposed subdivision on both sides of each proposed street. There shall be curb gutter and 5-foot sidewalk installed along the Old Boys Creek Road frontage adjacent to the subdivision, which will stub to the north and south of each proposed, of each parcel in question. And number 16, developer has agreed to incorporate crepe myrtles near the entrance of the subdivision. Are there any of these 16 the board has questions or concerns with as they read now?
Just an edit in number 9, Madam Clerk, the word space is left out where it should say open space shall be developed in accordance. So we need to add that to it. Any other comments or questions?
Sean, this the number 13 is a little open-ended for me and a little too up for interpretation. When you say the property shall be developed with 2 being the minimum, which is what they could do, 2 or more of the following amenities. And then you go into pedestrian walkways, benches, gazebos or a shade structure, play lawn, or petway stations. Well, while I love all those options, they could choose to put in a bench and a petway station. And that's not, I mean, I'm liking what I'm reading in the proposal, but the options to me are too wide and varied.
Yep.
And we've left it open to their choice, so they could put in a bench and a petway station. And I say as far as those things go, some of these things need to be deleted to encourage them. I'm not saying they wouldn't, but they certainly could if we leave that door open. And this seems a little too lenient.
Yeah, good catch. Section 6.3 of our ordinance requires half of your open space dedicated to be what we call active recreational open space. That section of the ordinance also lays out many flexible options to be in their sum reaching half of the open space. These are some of those options. If the board feels strongly one way or the other, we can pick of those options, such as playground, dog park, walking trails, what have you. Or we can strike through 13 and just say shall comply with section 6.3 of the ordinance, which requires half of that 12 acres of open space be active.
And active, though, when you mean could just be open walking area, right?
So that's where the planning director steps in, right? So I'm the guy who has to work with the developer's engineer to negotiate on exactly what active is. And what I have done in subdivisions in the past on that list that I provided is I've allowed them to use a 6-foot wide walking trail centered on a 10-foot wide cross section and only calculate the square footage within that 10-foot section towards their open space. In other words, I can't just draw one trail through the woods and say all the woods is active. Nope, that 10-foot strip through the woods is active.
Correct.
Right, and that's where you have your bench along the trail and your petway station along the trail. That's how you get credit for your active, not just the whole area.
Okay, that makes a little bit of sense to me.
Sean, is there a representative of the developer here who could comment on number 13?
Sure.
Okay, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Gary Hoff. I work with Meritage Homes. So what I can commit to the commissioners this evening, and I understand your point about it being vague and ambiguous. We can commit to the walking trail. We can commit to pet way stations. We can commit to park benches along the walking trail. And I know that we do have funds allocated for more of a robust improvement of open space. And I'll leave that up to the commissioners to decide if you feel a gazebo or a tot lot would be more appropriate. But it was always our intent to improve the open space in that fashion. So I know when we rezoned the Easley Track or Williams Pond, I heard that there was a desire for community building in the open space to bring the community together. So we're open to a gazebo structure, a shade structure, or a tot lot.
Mr. Hoff, is there going to be a homeowners association on this?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Does that meet your question?
Yes, it does. Because I would like to, I mean, we certainly recently we've had some play areas for the kids, just something of that nature, or a little bit more than just a bench, and which is great. I do love in this particular plan here that you don't have homes butting back to back in this area, which I think would be advantageous to me if I were looking for a home, because the first thing they're all going to have to do is put up a fence to even step out in their backyard or sit on their back porch. And these do not, there's no butting back-to-back properties that I see here right now. Even in the square triangle area, you have an open green space in the center there when you could have easily extended those lots right on into one another. So I am liking what I see there with that.
Yeah, that's great. And I know that, we were intentional on the I always get disoriented when I'm looking at this, but I suppose it's the northern entrance along the 10,000 square foot lots, that we left that open space with the specific intention that that would be an excellent opportunity to focus on that community building open space area, be it a tot lot, a gazebo, or something where the residents can gather and utilize that active open space.
Okay, I apologize. I'm an attorney. Sean, will you help us? Which of the following amenities are being agreed to? Will you look at so that when we pass this, it's definite?
Sure. I can commit to a gazebo, a shade structure, or a play structure, and I can commit to a play lawn.
So what'd you come up with? Madam Clerk, can he just read it into the record? Will that be sufficient, or? Okay. All right.
So I'm hearing walking trails. I'm hearing benches and waste stations along those walking trails. I'm hearing gazebo or other gathering structure. And then I'm hearing open play lawns to be HOA maintained for the children to play on off of private property. Which are...
So we're taking out play structure and play lawn and substituting open play lots. Is that correct? Otherwise, it's basically as written.
Right. I think play lawn and play lot are pretty much synonyms.
What I'm hearing is it originally said 2 or more, and he's saying, yes, I will do.
Yes.
So we've gone from 2 or more to...
With the following amenities. Okay.
Maybe I'm wrong. That's what I got.
Yep.
Everybody understand that? Oh, okay. All right.
Is there any other condition we need to discuss before we open the public hearing?
Some sorry, I'm clearing my throat again. Some of these buffers are larger than we have been requiring, are they not?
All of them are, yes, sir.
Yeah. If you got to go there, this is, I think, good work.
Mr. Mayor, once again, I don't want to be the reason nothing gets tabled, but it would be a lot easier on us to get something done now before we voted in than to have to try to go back and get it later. I just want to remind us again that we are going to have, I can't go into detail, but we're going to have conversation with the attorney later about a certain item that would fall into this plan here. So
that's a confidential meeting. I don't know how we can incorporate it.
The only option we got is to table it.
Commissioner Price, can I suggest that Mr. Hotzog and you consult privately and ask him if what you're talking about could be a zoning condition?
Well, everybody, not just me. I think.
Mm-hmm. What kind of issue are you raising?
It's in closed session. I can't discuss it.
Well, I mean, what kind of thing would you add?
Junior, would this not be something that we would just consider for the future?
Well, we got two tonight, don't we?
Yes, we do. But I don't want to hold these builders up and these decisions for that. I'm thinking, and two, it could be something that later on that Sean has knowledge of when people are consulting, to present.
That's fine.
And make it, if that were something that would happen.
Okay. Anything further on the conditions?
Would it be advantageous to go ahead and add in what we talked about earlier about the drainage now, or do we wait later on?
I suggest we have the public hearing to hear all the concerns.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. We're going to open it up for the public hearing. When you come up forward, will you state your name and your address for the record, please?
I'm Sherry Delbridge, 241 Blair Drive, Anger. And I'm definitely against this. I live at lot 47 in Windsor, which my house is very secluded from the Windsor subdivision. We chose that lot specifically for where it is and the way it's situated. These houses, you say they won't butt up to each other, it's going to butt right up to mine. And I'm against it. So that's what I want to say. And I'm also concerned about our pond. I don't know if anybody's looked into that and how it's fed from that field in our subdivision. So I want to raise that as an issue as well.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else?
Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I'm Steve Wicker. I live at 3979 Old Bush Creek Road. I'm here on behalf of Northern Farms Corporation, and I'm president, and my wife and I, Ann, who couldn't be here tonight because she's in the hospital in Raleigh recovering from surgery, but she wanted to be. We own an adjacent tract of land that on this map. Sean, could you bring up another map that you had up while ago that shows the surrounding properties as well?
To the other PDF.
had more of the Norden farm, trying to get more of the farm back together. That was out of the name Norden for about 140 years, but we finally were able to get it back in with we were delighted to do that. Question I had, Sean, about the CZ6 zoning. You were kind enough, and you've been very helpful to me in getting information to me, and I want to thank you publicly for that. When you gave me this CZR6 zoning chart, this says conditional zoning, high density CZR6. I'm confused about what you were saying a while ago that it wasn't high density. What am I missing? Is that a different?
Great planning question. Great planning. So the R6 district is Andrew's highest density residential zoning district we offer. When it's conditional, there is not a minimum density required. The developer is after a specific minimum lot size and a specific list of setbacks, especially the 5-foot side setbacks, which allow a larger building envelope on each lot. That's what he's after. Now, if there were no open space requirements and the developer could build on every inch of a perfect piece of land, it would be very high density. It would be up 5-6 units an acre instead of 2.8 like this proposed tonight. So the zoning district does not necessarily dictate the overall density. It just sets the minimum lot size and setbacks.
And so the conditional adds in the 10,000 square foot lots. And
right. There would be none in a standard R6.
Right.
Right.
In the CZR6, is the label high density incorrect?
No, you could do a much higher density than is proposed in CZR6. Absolutely.
the R6 would be high density in itself, but this is a modification of that.
CZR6 and the way it's defined in this chart is what's confusing to me, because it's saying one thing that's a little bit different than what we're saying R6 is high density. So what is CZR6 high density? What does that mean? I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
Yeah, well, it certainly has some elements of higher density than, say, R10
it
or
allows
R30.
You to go higher than a 10 or a 15 or a 30.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we'll move on from there, because I don't want to take everybody's time. In the last 2 years,
Sean, can you give him the mic back?
Sorry, I stole your money.
Sorry. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Coates. In the last 2 years, from the information I got from Sean, the town has approved 13 CZR6 districts for rezoning, and housing units totaling 2,045. Not to mention 8 PUDs with another number of 1,554 units. And what was stated before by several people that came up earlier is it's a lot at one time. It's a lot of high density activity coming at one time, when I personally don't think, I can only speak for myself, I don't think that the roads, that the Buies Creek Road and the Ennis Road and the Gardner Road and the roads around this area, Tippett, I don't think they can handle what's already been approved and already on the table. And there have been some comments, well, the bypass is going to be a saving grace and there'll be a halo at the top. I don't believe that, because I know what I see already happening, and because the bypass is hitting the bottom end of our farm, right below where Gardner Road comes out, about 200 yards south. And when people come out of this proposed development, according to the map, they're going to propose to turn south or north. This is a big, dangerous curve. It's been that way all my life. We've had a number of visitors to the Norden Cemetery that comes right out of the end of that curve. They just couldn't make that turn. They were traveling too fast. They either ended up right below Kenny and Deborah's yard, or they ended up in our field, or they ended up, and Cheryl came and got the cars, pulled them out, or Stuart Gardner. But anyway, they roll over. They end up visiting the cemetery prematurely. But anyway, the point is, it's just too dangerous a curve to have a driveway coming out in the middle of it. It really is. I've talked with traffic engineers already about that, and that is definitely the case. You've got to have at least a 500-foot sight variance, being able to see from that driveway north and south to be safe, a minimum 500 feet. But the way the contour of the soil goes with the fields, if you're at the bottom end of that curve, you can see the top of that stop sign, yes, but that's it. So as cars come around that curve, they may not be able to see cars that are standing in that avenue to come out of the subdivision if that driveway is in that particular location. I think there's enough room in the way the lots are laid out. They could move that driveway north a little bit to be in a more safe situation, if at all. The CZ6, the density that produced, it concerns me with 136 lots in this development, 152 across the street in the Easley tract, and with 288 plus, if you want to say 2 cars per household, this conditional, and you did a great job putting out the conditions, making those comprehensive. I think that's very good. They're saying you got to have 3 parking spaces. Got to have 3 parking spaces on a 6,000 square foot lot. And you're going to have 5-foot setbacks on the side. So 5 on each side for each house. That means that my house and your house, if we're there, we're 10 feet apart. We're going to be real close neighbors. In the back and the front are going to be compressed, which is what this young lady said a while ago. Density is going to be an issue. Police and fire protection, being able to get to a site, those things are a great concern to us all, no matter where we live. I don't know how many of you live in an R6 or a CZR6 zone district or not. I don't know. Do any of you live in one that's zoned that way? So it is a concern that we take a look at those matters. But I do appreciate seeing those conditions that were added. The 20-foot buffer, vegetation buffer, in condition number 10 along the Blues Creek Road. Can we put that back up, please? The other PDF. It shows the vegetation buffer. Thank you. Having a 20-foot, and Commissioner Coates talked about that. It's been 15. Now we're talking about doing a 20-foot. I want them to put a 20-foot here. This farm needs the same buffer that these other lots need. We're a neighbor too. We're next door. And we need that just as much. The retention ponds are part of the open space calculation. There's one down here as well. Further down, it's not shown on this part of the map. There we are. Got 2 retention ponds. Good point was made by Commissioner Price about HOA. Who's going to manage those retention ponds? Who's going to build them, design them, maintain them, manage them, under what code requirements, with DENR, with the state regulations that are required? Who's doing that? Who's going to look after it? That's a very big issue, because what we've got here is we've got, from this area, we've got meadow strips coming down through the field on both sides. We've got grass waterways coming down. When they put in those retention ponds, it's going to change the whole concept of how we manage the water runoff, how we manage the grass waterways, how the farm tractors and cultivation takes place in the fields adjoining. Those are big concerns. A right turn lane is great. Coming south, right turn in, and on the north end, and right turn in on the south end, wherever it may be, very important. But coming to that stop sign and planning to turn left and go north out of that southern end, boy, that's going to be an interesting experience. Now, the street up above where Ennis Road, I'm speaking of Ennis Road, comes into Bush Creek Road, is part of the development already approved with 152, started out 161, now it's 152 lots. That road is part of the connector to the bypass as well. But if people are trying to get north to work, west to work, and they're going to be living there, where are they going to come out and which way are they going to go to get to the exit or entrance to the bypass to go wherever they're going to go? They're not going toward Coates to do it. They're going south past our farm, which already has 127 cars a day in just normal days. let alone registration at Campbell, the law school, the med school, not the law school anymore, but the med school, the pharmacy school. We got traffic at various times that is amazing on that road. And now the introduction of the bypass is going to change that, because it's going to be a right loop around your elbow to get your thumb turned to go south to Campbell. Or they're going to go to the right and stay to the right and stay on the bypass. But they're all going to come out of there, and they're going to take the pathway of least resistance, in my opinion, and they're going to come my way and not go back toward Andrew, because they don't want to go to Andrew. They want to go to work somewhere else. Otherwise, they wouldn't use the bypass. Now, if they are going to come into town and go to work in businesses in town and be a part of the workforce in town, that's wonderful. I think that's great, but I don't think that will be likely. Those are some of my big concerns. Existing driveways, from where they're proposing the southern street entrance and exit from the subdivision, from that curve to Gardner Road, we have 11 driveways. 11 already. Now, how's that going to work with my farm tenants who are bringing equipment in and out of those fields and in and out of those streets, those driveways? By adding more cars, by adding more density, more traffic. It's going to require a whole lot more help from our folks in law enforcement who can help promote public safety for all of our communities, not just for people that live on the Bush Creek Road. In the agricultural community south of this development proposal, there's over 675 acres of farmland and timberland. Rural communities. They've been there all of our lives. This development is going to change the complexion of that area dramatically. Now, I'm not opposed to development. I'm concerned about how we go about doing it in the best interest of the whole community, not just one small area or one small particular set of circumstances. That's a big concern. I've tried to answer all the questions that were put in the zoning request standard review. I memorized this when I was on the planning board. Proposal will not place all property similarly situated in the area in the same category. That's right, it won't. It won't place all property. There is not convincing demonstration that all uses permitted under the proposed district classification would be in the general public interest. It's a pretty broad statement, and not merely the interest of individuals or small groups. There's not convincing demonstration that the character of the neighborhood will not be materially and adversely affected by the use permitted in this proposed change. I think it would. Please consider those things, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Who else?
Good evening. My name is Jay Powelson. I live at 246 Blair Drive in the, well, it would be western part, but southern, as you see the map there. I do have an adjacent property to the proposed rezoned area. Thank you, Commissioner Coates, for bringing up some of the clarifications. They were ambiguous. You called those out. However, I think ambiguous clarifications and conditions are the least of our worries. Right now, the gentleman that was just here gave you all the numbers. I don't need to give them to you again. I'm in construction. I'm the last person to criticize anybody for growth and development. I encourage it, but at a careful rate. Right now in Andrew, we're looking at rapid more than we can even think about. Mr. Mayor and Sean, great job. You mentioned that all of our rapid growth was due to Sean. It has been rapid, and it's only getting more rapid. What we're looking at right now is what are we going to do with the school system? You're adding all these houses, talking about the kids, Bike Week supporting the kids. Great. That's awesome. I have a 1-year-old. I want to support the kids, but where's she going to go to school? Our schools are going to be overrun. Water treatment system capacity. I hear that they're tying them into the local water treatment system. Who pays for that expansion? That's on the taxpayers, the people that are behind me. So you need to listen to what we're saying. We're the ones paying the bill. What are we going to do about that? Well, the Windsor development down here was tied into town, city, and sewer before I moved in about 10 years ago. you still have a problem. Excuse me. I'm gonna step off to the side here. You don't have proper stormwater management because you have an easement that comes through the back of my property and all these properties here. Every time we get a rain, we're under 6 inches of water. That's what we're looking at already, is our sewers overflowing 6 inches of water. I'm not going to tell you they're overflowing, but I can't get back there to look at them because it's a swampy, muddy mess. That's a town easement, supposed to be cared for by the town, and it's not. So you get to these buffers between Windsor and the new proposed development. You've got, I don't memorize what that said. I don't know if it's 5 feet or 15-foot buffers. Who's going to maintain those? The HOA. They're going to install mulch buffers one time and one time only, and then nobody's going to care about it because we don't have anybody to go out there and enforce code. We can't even take care of our own greenways, let alone enforce code. You can't see the grade plan because it doesn't continue into Windsor development right here, but you see these grade lines? Right here at the end of that current farm where it drops off into my backyard, that's a minimum of 3.5 foot elevation change. Dumps right on me. So now what? You're going to add 28 houses adjacent to Windsor, and they're all going to dump water in my backyard? I promise you I'll be back in here chasing you folks down. I don't mean that as a threat, but we're not thinking about what we're doing. We're going to throw up 3 developments in the last 6 months. No stormwater plan. We're not caring for the easements that are already out there. Just something to think about. Road maintenance. The gentleman up here before me already did a great job identifying a lot of the road problems. They're going to put in right turn lanes to get into the new development. Great. That's how they get in. How do they get out? I disagree. I don't think they're going to be going south because there's no bypass in yet. They're all going north. Sean, if you wouldn't mind going up on that map for me. You can't see it, but Old Bowie's Creek goes north and it hits 55. You got a 160-degree hairpin turn if you want to go right. I can't get out of my neighborhood in the morning already. There's over 50 houses in Windsor, and you're going to put another 136 in here? This is a working-class community. There's going to be double-income people. That means 2 people coming out of each house going to work in the morning. We already can't get out of Windsor. What are you going to do right there at that hairpin turn at 55 in Old Bowie's Creek? I can't get out of my development, let alone get on 55 right now. And we're going to add not only these 136 houses, the ones you improved 6 months ago that are a little bit further on down the way. There's no bypass. They're coming to Andrew. There's no question about it. So what are we going to do right there? You got people coming off 55 going south onto Old Bowie's Creek Road. It's a 35-mile-an-hour zone. No disrespect, law enforcement, I swear. They're coming off 55 doing about 55 miles an hour already. I'm trying to pull out of the freaking I'm trying to pull out of my current neighborhood, and you almost get hit from the left. Now I got 136 new homes coming from the right, plus the additional number of homes, I think it was 128, I don't remember back that far, behind us. What are we going to do about the roads? If we keep growing the central area of Andrew, like we're doing, at a rapid rate, great growth. Let's make it intentional growth. Where do you put businesses? Where do you put restaurants? Where are these people going at on Friday night? I can't get a seat at Nappertandy's already on a Thursday night, let alone a Friday night. And we're adding how many more houses? What are we going to do in the center of town? It's a question. I don't expect an answer tonight, but we got to be thinking about these things. I mentioned the buffers to the adjacent property. There's going to be an HOA in there. I've got a question. When it comes to code enforcement, no disrespect, Sean, you've done a great job, I swear. Code enforcement can't even get into the Windsor development to enforce code. And without throwing anybody under the bus or anything like that, we've got businesses being operated. We've got lawns that aren't being maintained to town standards. Who's going to maintain those buffers? Who's going to enforce the HOA maintaining those buffers? I want to know that that's going to be done. I believe I've said all I needed to say. Thank you for your time. Please consider.
Thank you, sir. Someone else?
Good evening. My name's Scott Stone. I'm with American Engineering. We're the engineering and planning firm that has been working with staff on this plan. excuse me, I want to talk a little bit about the property in general, because this is what we're calling Gardner Farms is not just another residential development. It is a piece of property that's been owned by a family for a long, long period of time. Just like the property across the street, when the Easleys were looking at selling their property, they were talking to a lot of different developers and builders and what should they do with it. Well, when Danny and Ken Gardner were watching that very closely because they're cousins and they saw exactly what happened. So the experience they had with Meritage during that process, with the Easleys had, the Gardners saw that and that meant a lot to them. So they know they could trust them and to do what they said they're going to do and be above board. The Gardners care about what happens to this community. They've lived here a very long time. They've got memories of spending time as kids on this property. So they aren't just folks that don't have any vested interest in this community. They care about this community. So we're seeking your approval on their behalf as well as Meritage, because this is important to them, that they're leaving a legacy of a community behind, a residential neighborhood that will hopefully improve the community, will bolster the community, and be something that will have their name on it, that will leave a legacy behind for them and for the folks in their family that came before them. I don't want to go through a lot of the things that Sean already mentioned, because he did a great job with covering a lot of the topics. But I do want to mention a couple of things. We've continued to hear the word high density tonight, but correct me if I'm wrong, Sean. On the land use plan, the future land use plan, there's a low density of 1 to 3 per acre, and a medium density of 3 to 6 per acre. This is 2.8 units per acre, which would fall in the low density category. And I know it sounds like it's a high density compared to farmland, but it's truly not a high density community like you would expect to see in other places at 2.8 per acre. The exceeding of the open space requirements, the buffer requirements, the turn lanes, all the improvements that they're being offered by the developer, by the builder, they exceed the requirements and the requests. And this is a builder who's vested in the town as well, because they're going to be building across the street as well. Talking about a few of the things Mr. Wicker mentioned, and with all due respect to him, a couple of the things that he mentioned, his farm, which is technically outside of the town limits, this will be annexed in the town limits, which is increasing the tax base for the town. The site distance issues and some of these other things, those will have to be met. This is regardless of the land use issues, those requirements will have to be met, or NCDOT will not approve our engineering plans, and it will never get built. So site distance requirements and all the other aspects of it will have to be done no matter what. Either the town or NCDOT or NCDEQ, depending on which is the regulatory agency reviewing different sections, it will have to meet all those requirements. This isn't just let's wish and hope. It is a must be done, or else it will not be able to get construction permits. The stormwater ponds, I want to mention a little bit, because as everything will be collected and flow to those stormwater ponds, there is a requirement that all the runoff that is collected has to meet there's a precondition of construction. What is the runoff that comes off the property now, and what is the post-construction situation? So the stormwater ponds will be designed, and they will not be approved for construction if they're not designed this way. They will be designed to capture all of the stormwater from the site, hold it, so you're not having more runoff in the future than what you have today. So that is what the ordinances require. That's what the requirement, the DEQ is going to require. So those kinds of things. Same thing with water, sewer, and fire access. All those things are going to be done to meet the requirements. So I just want to mention all those things to you, because they are important, and they're rightfully some concerns about those things, because it's nerve-wracking to think that this is coming to next door neighbors, but this is a project that will meet all those requirements because it has to, and the buffers in between the two properties is going to be significant. And again, one of the things last thing I'll mention is the buffer on we'll call it south side. What you can't see, could you look at the other PDF there for a second? I want to show the aerial for a second. There you go. So if you look at the buffer on the Wicker property, that's all wooded right now. So while we're adding a 15-foot buffer along that property, all that wooded area right there, that's a stream going through there in probably wetlands and all those trees. That can't be farmed anyway. So we're adding the required 15-foot buffer, but then there's all the trees next to it as well. So that is something to keep in mind as well. So we're excited about the prospects of annexing in, adding to the community. I know Meritage is very, very dedicated to being a good corporate neighbor, and I know the Gardeners are very, very focused on that as well, and they want to leave something that's a legacy for this community. Thank you.
Any questions from the board for the developer?
Well, I have some questions backing up, and I don't know whether they go to different people or direct them at Sean, and if other people can answer them for me, because they did start piling up on me over here a little bit as I heard different things, but I need somebody to answer some of these things for me. And Sean, I know it is my understanding that these things have to be approved, and they have to meet codes, and they have to do things. So I'm going to back up and ask some questions. So I talk about what is not a good way to see a certain direction, and I'm assuming that there has been a DOT analysis done on this property, and they have said what is. I'm seeing shaking heads over here that no, it hasn't been done. So have we done an analysis study of the traffic input?
We have done a traffic impact analysis. Well, so if you're asking the question of me, Mr. Wicker's chiming in on, the driveway permit will be done during the construction permitting process after the design is completely done. So that would never have been done at this stage because there's nothing to approve yet because this hasn't even been annexed in or zoned. So,
but it would have to meet state qualifications and coding in order for it to ever be passed to be done.
So, for example, that's correct. So, for example, the site distances that were discussed before.
Yes.
So that is absolutely something that would have to be met. And so the site distances are typically based on the speed of the road, and whether the distance is, and can you see from sitting in your car, can you see a car coming and be able to react in a reasonable amount of time? So if, as is said, that you don't have those site distances, well, NCDOT is not going to approve that.
Well, that was my point, Sean. I just want to make sure that there are governing bodies that will oversee this and make sure that it meets what the requirements are.
Correct. So we have to do it. We have to design that in a way. And if that means you're pulling back some areas and you're grading it in an area so you can get those site distances, that is what will be required.
All right.
Could it involve moving the entrance some?
It could slightly do it. Where we have it there is really, you try to put it in a point in that kind of the radius of that curve, so you've got the best view from both sides. So that's kind of where it is there, but it could shift slightly a little bit here and there just for those purposes. And it could mean that it comes off the road a little bit to where the trees are, because there will be a site triangle as well, just from that at every intersection. So you're going to make sure that there's nothing there that's going to block the view of the traffic coming out.
Okay. All right, we can have some more questions from the hearing part if you'd like to come forward, and then if there's nothing else after that, we'll close the hearing and get to the board.
Yeah, because I have more questions.
Okay, we can let you ask your question. Okay. So, okay. All right, sir, are there any other comments?
This is a comment in the form of a question. Old Bowie's Creek.
Well, no, just make a comment.
Jay Powelson, 246 Blair Drive. Old Bowie's Creek. Sean, can you verify if that's a DOT maintained highway? Okay. Can we go back to the stormwater retention pond at the lower part of it's actually the western part of the new development? Again, calling attention back to that grading plan. As graded right now, the farm has a 3.5 foot difference in elevation higher than the back of my property. It's always run off into the back. It is what it is. That farm was there before all of us. Now that you're going to put your stormwater plan, you have one retention pond down here at the bottom, which I assume you're funneling all the way down from the street by the grading plan. That water is going to sit there for whatever the retention time is, stagnant in the back of our property, while the rest of it, as you can see the grade lines here, don't come down along our property and turn around so the water funnels in. That water is going to flow right off, continuing to go right back into the back of our properties. Only 2 comments.
Thank you.
Once again, Sean, I have another question now. I'm assuming, we went through these discussions, I think, on these other properties over here before they were approved on. And I think I had to ask the same question then. I know that these are prelims and things of this nature, but it is what you do when it comes down to the actual approval to make sure that these runoff issues are taken care of as best we all can't guarantee. We all like to do things and changes to our own properties and homes and hope it'll make it approved, and it doesn't always. But it is my understanding, because there was concern before on the other property, that right now that this is a prelim, but there is no way that you would let them build this without meeting the qualifications and things that are required for runoff. Obviously, there's already an existing issue, which I don't know who would deal with or if it's even been brought to you there. But can you confirm that for me, that will all be taken into consideration and analysis?
Yeah. Doesn't hurt to summarize the subdivision review process every time we see a new proposal. Want everybody in the room and watching to understand that this is only step 1. The developer, if approved, has a long road ahead. He has engineers already contracted. They have not been released to get to work yet. The lines that Mr. Powelson pointed out are topography lines as of today. That is not a grading plan. There has been no grading plan or drainage plan done to date because we cannot authorize them to proceed with that until they have their zoning and annexation in place. That's when the engineers get to work and build these sometimes 100-page plan set with very detailed drawings of exactly how he's going to meet all of the town's ordinances and all of the state standards. And the town, requires copies of those state approvals before we could approve, as well as federal approvals in the case of impacting wetlands, which there's a little bit on site. So this is a very, very preliminary sketch. This is not fully fleshed out. We are simply setting the guardrails on how many lots you can get, how the streets are going to be laid out, buffering, landscaping, amenities, etc. Then he's going to get into the details at his plan review process.
Well, thank you for that. And back to another question that was brought up through some of these other developments. Can you answer for me so that I can understand, once these things are approved, whose responsibility is it to maintain a water retaining area? Is it the HOA? Who is it that's supposed to do that? I guess my question would be, if I lived in one of these communities that had that problem, and it's a problem, who do I go to talk? If it's not being dealt with, whose door should they be knocking on?
That's right. Yeah, that's not a unique scenario. This subdivision is no different than the other ones already approved. The town of Andrew requires the execution and notarization of a stormwater management agreement between the town and the future HOA. We make them reference it in the HOA covenants to be recorded at the Register of Deeds office along with the separate stormwater maintenance agreement, meaning it will be maintained in perpetuity by the HOA, or it's a void of contract and there could be an issue with the town. Now, it requires annual inspection on top of routine maintenance, where they have to hire a third-party engineer to certify the stormwater pond is functioning as designed.
The HOA has to hire.
Absolutely. Absolutely, they do, and they have to submit that to the town.
Do we do anything on our end, though, to see that those things are done? I mean, I'm going to throw something out there. I got a backflow system on my irrigation on my land. Well, you come knocking on my door wanting to see my every 2-year inspection on it. Are we doing that to these communities and saying, well, I want to see your stormwater certificate and that it's operating properly and doing what it's supposed to do?
Since that was established in the town of Andrew, we absolutely have and will. That was yet another responsibility of staff as we continue to grow.
All right.
You will have to keep a database of all of these stormwater agreements and ponds in town and make sure when they're due for their inspection, they're submitting that third-party certification saying it's functioning properly, or you can face legal action from the town, just like all of our other codes.
Thank you for answering that one. My next one is regarding some comment about, well, you can plant a buffer, but who's going to maintain it and what's it going to look like in 10 years' time? Well, I hope it's going to fill in and do what it's supposed to do, but that's a good question, and I would like to know the answer to that. With these buffers, is that part of the HOA's management? I mean, I would think it would be, but answer that question for me. Who does maintain those buffers after they are installed?
HOA maintenance of all open space to include stormwater facilities and landscape buffers is required to be referenced in your recorded HOA covenants to be maintained in perpetuity by the HOA. Okay. Just like any other town ordinance, we receive complaints, code enforcement goes out, sends you a letter, gives you a certain number of days to comply. If you don't comply, you face fines. It's this enforced the same way.
Okay. I think that covered the questions I've been piling over here as we went through different discussions, because I'm listening, I am hearing, I don't live in some of those situations, and so I don't know how it works, and I don't know who's responsible for maintaining those things. So, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Steve, you keep raising your hand. Do you have a quick comment?
I would make an assumption that the water retention, wastewater retention ponds is intent to protect the public from any hazards created by that environment. We did the same thing on the north side of town for commercial buildings. The retention pond had to be fenced in so that kids couldn't, curiosity speaking, loudly find their way into it and get hurt.
Is that true, Sean?
The numbers you're speaking about potentially here, we've got to protect those areas. That's my comment.
Typically, there are ordinances or the state requirements, depending on which is guiding those stormwater structures. They will dictate what is fenced, what is not fenced, and what access is done. A maintenance easement and access will need to be available so that we can get in and do maintenance to the ponds. But that's, safety is typically an issue there. And let me point out also, whether it's the ponds or the buffers, you've got 130 some houses here who might have some children living there as well. The HOA is going to be concerned about safety of the kids in their own neighborhoods. So I think what's important to the people outside of this neighborhood are going to be the same things that are important inside the neighborhood. Right. And if the buffers aren't maintained, for example, I think the people who live in the houses in the yellow right there might be some of the first ones that might complain to the HOA. How come you're not maintaining my buffer when I pay my HOA dues?
Right. Okay. All right. I think it's time to call a conclusion to the hearing itself. Discussion by the board.
I think the biggest thing we're hearing here is water drain off and onto the existing properties and traffic on Old Buies Creek Road. And I know that for a fact because Jay's correct. I mean, in the morning we cannot get out of that subdivision. And the amount of accidents that are there a week, if people only knew, is ridiculous. And I don't understand why DOT has not done anything about that intersection right there. And my other concern is, with all these homes going in, is the infrastructure. Is there going to be enough water supply and sewer supply for all these existing homes? That's my biggest thing.
Jerry, do you want to respond to that?
To date, with Bill's report that you have in your packet, indicates what the sewer capacity is. based on usage, based on planned, approved subdivisions by the board to date. So you can see by looking at his report that there's still capacity with our wastewater. And
Okay.
again, we know that we're working on partnering with Harnett County to increase our sewer capacity by 1.2 million gallons per day.
Anything else on the board?
I'm just curious. The gentleman said about the town's easement. How often do we go out there and do anything with that easement to maintain it? Sir, can you come up? What easement are you referring to?
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. There's a sewer easement going back.
Yeah. So what are you experiencing on your lot? Are you having raw sewage?
Each rain
what-
event, I'd rather not go back there and check for raw sewage. I do work on wastewater plants every day,
Right.
and that's enough for me
Well,
when I get home.
okay. Do you smell anything?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So how
I
often?
would say the mowing is somewhat adequate during rain season, especially now moving into hurricane season. It is a big problem. I have had, and sorry to make it about me, but I have had water come all the way up about 2/3 of the way. My house sits about right here, and about 30 to 50 feet off the house, standing water in heavy rain events.
Yeah, I've seen some of the backyards, and it's atrocious. After a rainfall, y'all have 6-inch plus.
Well, that's
Of
the
water.
concern about funneling to a retention pond
Right,
here,
right.
and making sure that all gets
Because the
captured.
town needs to be doing their job too.
How
Well,
many
understand-
retention ponds are there, Sean?
I believe 2.
Okay.
Again, I'm not here to shut down the growth of the town, but
No, but
we
it's a
lived here
valid
first.
concern.
Sure. 246.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a comment if I can,
Okay.
sir. Good.
Sure.
Folks, what we do up here is not easy. A lot of us sitting up here has grown up with have some of these people sitting out here in this crowd. We understand and we know, we see it ourselves. A lot of these farmers are selling off their land. I mean, they pay taxes on it all their life. They farmed it. You can't expect them to do it forever. We see the growth. My biggest concern, and I keep asking and asking and asking, can we support all this growth? And everybody that aspires to be says we can. It's tough. It's a tough decision we have to make, and it's not easy. We don't want to be like Fuquay. We don't want to be like Holly Springs, where we can't take an hour to get across town. But all we can hope for is bypasses and then I hear people talking about, like this young man, he takes, he can't even hardly get in on Napa Tandy's on Thursday nights. What about Friday and Saturday nights? Well, everybody wants nicer things to come to Angier. Well, you're not going to get them if you don't have the people. People are not going to build their businesses here if you don't have people to support it. It's a two-way street. So I just want you to know, I mean, we got you. We know how you feel. We feel you, but it's tough doing what we have to do up here. So,
Any other questions or comments from the board? Are you ready to vote? The question before you is the conditional rezoning request from RA 30 to CZ R6. Conditional R6. It is based on the conditions that were placed before you and were modified. I don't know what happened to mine, but anyway, there it is. As modified in number 13 to basically include everything there. So shall be developed with the following amenities: pedestrian walkways, benches, gazebo, shade structure, pet waste stations, and then open play lots. So, those are the 16 conditions in addition to the requirements of the ordinance. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we approve with the conditions set forth for this development.
Okay. Is there further discussion? All right. All in favor of the motion, please raise your right hand. All against? Okay. Well, as mayor, I don't vote all the time. I only get to vote when there's a 2-2 tie. These issues, as was just pointed out, are not easy. Before I tell you how I'm going to vote, remember that when the bypass comes, a lot of the traffic is going to be siphoned off. Please give me the R.H. Ellington, the mayor, said that until you have a certain number of people, you can't expect the amenities to come. The stores and the restaurants and other things like that. I feel like that Sean has done a great job of regulating our growth. It's been tough, but we're on a path that's eventually going to level off. But again, please. So, I am going to vote in favor of the motion. It is passed. Certainly.
It is all recorded, and you can go look at all of that.
Right.
Mr. Mayor, if I could make a comment for 1 second before we move on to the next thing on the agenda. I've heard a lot of concerns tonight, and I encourage people. It alarms me when I hear about a water runoff issue the night of voting over something, and I encourage everybody online and a lot of people that just left us, come to the town and present, come to these meetings and stand up and let us know what the problems are. I don't know there's water standing in your yards and backyards, and tonight is a hard night to hear it. I ain't just saying, I encourage you, come, let us know. I've been up here, basically, this is the end of my third term here, or third year here, but I've never heard of complaints about water, sewer issues in some of these developments. And I say, don't be afraid to come and talk to us and let us know. That's how we can make the changes and address these issues along the way. So I'm disappointed to find out new information when I say let your voice be heard and come and let us know. So, because I do want to know, well, who is maintaining this and who should be fixing it? But like I said, if we don't know, we can't help. And so I encourage people to come to these public meetings and not be afraid to. That's what that public comment in the very beginning is for.
Okay.
You got a personal issue. I don't care if it's a stop sign down at the end of your road. Come and let us know so we can see what we can do to get it fixed.
Commissioner Coates, I'll take it a step further. Just give Town Hall a call and not wait for a board meeting. Just give us a call at Town Hall, and we'll reach the right director, and we'll go out and investigate.
Well, and certainly I do encourage that, but I don't mind hearing, I like hearing problems and concerns so that we can also help see. I'm not discouraging not calling you by any means.
Right.
But I didn't have a chance to ask some of these people, have you called and reported these issues, and has anything not been done about them? Because that's a big concern.
Right.
Sorry.
All right, the next item on our agenda is another public hearing for conditional rezoning request. submitted by Chris McKinney, 31 acres Matthews Mill Road from RA 30 to CZR 6. Okay, we'll have the hearing on that. Sean, will you present the factual basis?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Public hearing number 2 on your agenda tonight is another conditional R6 rezoning request. This one comes to us from Mr. Chris McKinney on behalf of Miss Rebecca Parton, the property owner. These parcels in question just over 32 acres in total, located on Matthews Mill Pond Road, near the southwest corner of town. Vicinity map on your screen here, the red arrow is pointed to the parcels in question. This right here is Highway 210 headed west-southwest towards Lillington. This right here is the intersection of Highway 210 and Matthews Mill Pond Road, headed south. The parcel will be on your left if you drive down Matthew Mill Pond Road. Let's see. Page 2 of your staff report, you'll see the existing and surrounding zoning. Wanted to point out this parcels on your screen is directly west of the Dupree Farms subdivision previously approved by the board, right here, or represented by this CZR6 block right here, which spans both of these parcels to the east and southeast of the ones in question. Current zoning is also RA30 on these parcels. As was the previous case, we have a minimum square footage of 30,000 currently, and a minimum requested of 6,000 square feet.
And Sean, is that because they were in the count? They are in the county at this point.
They're in our ETJ currently.
Well, but the RA 30 is inherited from the county.
Yes, parcels outside of town limits are typically RA 30. Yes, sir. Once again, the highlighted P in this box on the screen means that the only use proposed is what Andrew's ordinance is defined as multifamily. We'll get into the details of that proposal here in just a second. The physical characteristics of the properties and surrounding properties are shown here with this little aerial map. Like I mentioned, Dupree Farms is directly to the east. You've got Ken's Muffler directly on the other side of Matthew Mill Pond, a couple existing residences on the northwest corner of these properties. We have Funeral Home, Church, and Nunez Concrete directly to the north facing Tippett Road. Those dashed yellow lines, just for your reference, is a Duke Energy power easement existing on the property. Like I said, these are 2 parcels totaling roughly 32 acres, currently used for farmland. There is an existing pond on site. Surrounding land uses include medium density residential, professional services, church to the north I mentioned, and also surrounding agricultural uses. Just want to point out as a side note, you can see where the NCDOT has recorded the Highway 55 bypass right-of-way just on the edge of your map here to the southwest on the other side of Matthew Mill Pond from the parcels in question. Once again, as is typical, this project, if approved, will be annexed into Town of Andrew. Developer will extend town water and town sewer in order to serve the proposed units. And the property will be accessed both by Matthews Mill Pond Road and the future street stub to be provided by Dupree Farms to the east. Our land use maps on the screen here on page 3 of your staff report. These 2 yellow boxes on the parcels in question here represent our medium density residential. As you heard earlier, that typically refers to the 3 to 6 units per acre. Wanted to point out
Sean, could you go back? So single family, is it permitted in CZR6?
These are the proposed uses. The developer has proposed,
I understand,
duplex and townhome units.
I understand.
With a overall density of actually less units per acre than the last proposal at 2.69 units an acre. So which is shy of that medium density classification. My evaluation is on page 4. Just like the item before on your agenda, my recommendation is for approval of the conditional rezoning if that attached conditions list that we will go through is enforced. And the planning board also recommended approval of this rezoning with conditions at their August 9th meeting. Does the board have a copy of that 8.5 by 11 subdivision layout for this one. I apologize for my poor printer quality. There is some streaks going through the paper here. I think it actually looks better on the projector screen for this one. Wanted to give a general overview of the proposed subdivision plan. On the left side of your screen, this is Matthews Mill Pond Road, existing today with a couple of residents on this northern corner here. The single proposed entrance on Matthews Mill Pond is right here, represented by this gray line representing proposed streets here, with a stub to the southern property and a stub that will tie in to the eastern side, which is, as I mentioned, the Dupree Farm subdivision, which will tie directly in with a town street to this new subdivision, if approved. The green areas you see on the page there, those are the dedicated reserved open space areas. As you can see, there is an existing large pond represented by this blue blob here on your screen, existing pond, as well as a proposed stormwater pond in the near vicinity as well. Wanted to point out some amenities. This really small, thin brown line around the existing pond up here to the mail kiosk area near the entrance of the subdivision, and around the southern border, as well as up the Duke Power easement to the northern border of the property. Those are all proposed walking trails within the open space. The units proposed themselves, everything in yellow you see, would be future duplex lots. Now, as a refresher for the board, a duplex in Angier requires twice the minimum lot size as a single-family lot. So, for example, the minimum lot size for a single-family lot in R6 is 6,000, so the minimum lot size for a duplex would be 12,000. And that is what's proposed for these duplex lots here, meaning 2 lots, 2 dwelling units per parcel. The purple units proposed near the entrance there, those are townhome units, meaning 3 or more attached units. Now, as we know, in Angier, you cannot have more than 19 townhome units before a special use permit is required. Developer tonight is proposing to cap it at 19. Right. Do any board members have questions about the map on the screen before we read conditions?
Who is speaking for the developer?
You want to hear from them now? Go ahead. Okay. If there's anything you'd like to add to the proposed plan?
The first thing, we did an analysis and we understood the schools would be pushed by what was already existing. And so we came up with, if you'll see, a 55 and over, that will be in the HOA. So we're looking for 55 and older, so there won't really be any kids here unless they're visiting.
Oh, okay.
And that was the people that was here last month, they really enjoyed hearing that we wouldn't have pressure on that. So we're going to have a bunch of old folks like me, I guess, that want to come in and be grandparents to all these homes. And one of the important things that Sean told us, and the Parton family and the 2 family that are still here, this property had been in the family since 1917, and I may read a little bit to you about the family that's still alive. Miss Parton is in an old folks home, and they selected me to help them and make sure they went the right direction with this, because 55 is going right across the home place within, 150, 200 feet of their southwest corner beside this piece of property. The new 55's coming right through them. So
The
their whole
bypass.
life, the bypass is in their front yard now. And so we've been in contact with DOT, and she just said that their family had been there for 6 generations, and it's already been peaceful and quiet. And now they never had to worry about when they got home how nice this area is. And they would not be interested in doing anything we're talking about, because they have farmers that come in, and they come in and grow crops there, and that's how they make a little money to pay the taxes. And they have no problem with keeping that going. However, this is changing their lives. They have 2 little great granddaughters I had a great-great-granddaughter, and Miss Two is a great-granddaughter that still live on the property. So they're going to choose to uplift on the total acreage that's there and leave completely and run out about 25 miles and start this process all over again. And so we want to put a small part in place there. We're going to call it part in place if y'all approve it. And we're looking to have something that's going to be really enjoyable. It's got a beautiful pond there. The land is just very gentle. And it's just a perfect way for them to get out, and move forward and be able to attain another piece of property and grow. There's 3 homes here. They have to replace those 3 homes within the family somewhere else. And the reason for that's because 55's coming. It's just not going to be the same thing to them, if y'all are familiar. The other news for this is we're going to stick together. I'm still going to stick together with the family, and when this if y'all approve this and the pipe comes up to the top of the hill, we're going to need that, and that's where the township has already turned their property into light industrial. Is that right?
You're referring to the other property
Across the street.
That's where we have our commercial mixed-use corridor along the bypass he's referring to.
So you're turning their farmland across where they had melons with the neighbors. So they're turning that into a mixed-use light industrial, and it just turned. Is that purple or yellow? Is it purple?
I think it's purple on the map.
It's purple. Do you have that map where they can?
The other PDF.
And they didn't know all this stuff, and I'm just one of those nice guys that kind of showed them what was going to happen to them or happen to the land. So let's, instead of some stranger coming in and doing something with it, let's participate. So, Sean, where is it? Okay, here we go.
These 2 here.
This is the proposed property here, coming back, and the Dupree property's coming through here, and there's a road. So the only way they can get over here with sewer is from Dupree and through our road here, and we're going to attach it to here, and hopefully y'all will come back and we'll have a plan to maybe do some type of what the gentleman that was sitting right here. Y'all need some more restaurants and things, and that would be our thought process down the way. But that's 2 or 3 years off. So that's known as the King property. I'm sure there's some people here that know more about this. I'm not from here. I'm from Greensboro, North Carolina. And in 21, the King's, Rebecca's, the daughter, brought the small house at 316 Mill Pond, which is right across the street. They just refurbished that and put about $100,000 and refurbished that little bitty gray house. And when you walk inside of it, it'll knock your eyeballs out, and they rent that house out. Then in 80, the 375 Mill Pond was by Rebecca Parton, the one that is the granddaughter to the Kings. And then she's the one in the old folks home right now. I don't know if that's the right language. I should be saying that. And then the main place was built by the granddaughter, Jane, too, which is there now since 1985. And so they love it. The decision by the state to come in with 55 is what changed their plans. And I'm kind of helped them along and said, this is what I think we need to do. And Sean helped us, and we came up with a 55 plan with a good company that y'all very well know in the area is already doing business.
Have you done other 55 and older?
Yes, they have.
Tell me about those.
It's with Ryan Homes. Are you familiar with Ryan
Yes.
Homes? That's what they do.
Okay.
They did Colin Wilson with that company. They did a market analysis, showed us, and y'all, I believe y'all had a conversation about the schools, and we knew that. And I said they're talking about schools and putting too much pressure, and let's don't get involved. And they came back and said we're going to do a 55 plus. Okay. And Sean liked it, and everybody else kicked it off, and so here we are.
Okay.
And I can, if you want me to, I can name the 6 generations of the kids and the grandchildren that would benefit from this, but I don't think it's necessary.
Okay. Any questions of the developer at this point before we hear from others in the audience?
You said it. Go ahead.
I'd like to back up.
Sure.
Can I go sit back down and I'll come back?
Sure, yes.
Which one?
On the top here.
There you go.
Thanks. Yeah.
That's not,
I'll read it. That's yours. That's yours.
you keep that. I brought you pictures of it.
Okay, so you should have a two-paged Word document with 14 total zoning conditions before you. I'm going to buzz through them pretty quick. Stop me if you have a question about any of these. Number one, the parcels in question shall only be developed with duplex and townhome residential lots. There shall be no more than 87 total units on the parcels in question. Once again, if they reduce the lot count, that can be approved by staff. Number three, there should be no more than 19 lots developed for townhomes. All duplex lots shall be at least 12,000 square feet. All townhome lots shall be at least 2,500 square feet. The minimum setback shall be as required in the R6 district. There shall be a minimum of 11 acres of total open space dedicated, of which a minimum of 9 shall be active recreational open space, developed in accordance with Chapter 6 of the ordinance. Number 8, there should be a 10-foot Type C landscape buffer installed along Matthews Mill Pond Road. Number 9, there should be a 15-foot Type A landscape buffer installed along the sides and rear of the proposed townhome lots. Number 10, there should be curb gutter and 5-foot sidewalk installed throughout the proposed subdivision on both sides of each proposed street and along the road frontages on Matthew Mill Pond Road, which stubs to each adjacent property. 11, all lots proposed adjacent to parcels which are occupied by residential dwellings as of July when the conditions were written shall also include a 15-foot Type A landscape buffer. Number 12, the developer shall incorporate crepe myrtles into the landscaped area near the entrance to the subdivision. Number 13, 15-foot Type A landscape buffer shall also be provided adjacent to the Dupree Farms development to the east, specifically between lots 16 and 20. Number 14, the proposed subdivision shall be an age-restricted community which complies with the following conditions. A, all proposed dwelling units must be occupied by persons at least 55 years of age. B, the proposed subdivision shall adopt an HOA with covenants, conditions, and restrictions to enforce these age restrictions. C, HOA covenants should be submitted and approved by the planning director prior to recordation of any proposed lots. D, the HOA shall conduct a survey every 2 years to verify the ages of the dwelling unit occupants and provide a summary of findings to the planning director. And E, the HOA shall continuously enforce these age restrictions. In the event the subdivision becomes non-compliant with the age restrictions, HOA shall take necessary actions to remedy the violations and bring the subdivision back into compliance. So that is staff's attempt to button up the age-restricted portion and think of everything the best we can up front to make sure it stays as intended, which is 55 and older only.
Have you done this with other subdivisions in town?
Have not. I believe this is a first where the developer has agreed to this clear and strict an age requirement. We've had 2 others that said age-targeted residential dwellings, ranch houses on slab intended for accessibility and low maintenance, but we have never had a developer agree to a full-fledged HOA-enforced age restriction.
I assume this is enforceable. Dan, have you had any experience with these things? Okay. All right. Okay. All right. Anything else? Let's see if we have comments from those present. Are there any comments about this proposal? Excuse me? I opened it, yeah. If not, I'll close the public hearing. And any comments from the board? Questions?
I do have a question, and it would probably be for the builder. So when you target I love the idea of a targeted community development for specific requirements and needs. My question to you is, when I see duplexes and townhomes, I'm questioning. Most people 55 and older are not looking for climbing stairs and second levels. And are you building with master beds on ground floors?
I brought that so you can see, because these are people like me. They've got kids. They're gonna come visit.
Right, I assume that.
The downstairs, if you'll look, it's a wonderful downstairs. You don't need upstairs.
But they all will have a downstairs bedroom.
Yes, sir. That's what they look like. Right.
Okay, I'm just giving that information for everybody
Pass
else.
that along so that everybody else can.
Down there.
Earlier, so he didn't yell at me, so I didn't get in trouble. But I should have had
You've seen that? Yeah, I think we saw that earlier.
But they all will have masters on the ground floors.
along with each other, they'll be downstairs.
But the kids can't come back and live there, right?
That gets expensive if you know how expensive kids are.
Right.
Well, no, I'm just curious if you have dealt with this as we said, in the past anywhere else. I mean, when I die and pass my kids who are under 55 the house, how does that work? On. Yeah, and I'm going to let you come over to the mic because people complain all the time that people are speaking and they can't online hear what you're saying.
So, because this is more than.
The whole necessity for this, in my opinion, not so much how we did this, but the town's going to grow, and the pipe's got to go across the street, and we're paying for it. So when that 55 comes, and we've already been in contact with them, and they're taking 6.49 acres of her 31 acres across the street, and so that's light industrial. So we're hoping we're successful in making some folks show up there and grow your town, and
Are you at liberty to tell us what these are going for?
No, sir. I'm not pricing them. I'm just the go-between with Ryan. I could almost guess, though. I'd say in the high 3s and the low 4s. You want one? I've already sold 3. I'm telling you.
That would increase the price.
It's a beautiful, beautiful piece of property. This is really good looking. It's a good idea. I know.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
Oh, okay.
I'm young at heart. So, anyway. All right. Any questions from those in the audience? Yes, ma'am.
Hi. Dolores Price. I don't have a dog in the fight, but where you mentioned, is this enforceable? Because I thought equal housing opportunity did not allow for gender, age, religion, all of that stuff. You know what those rules are. When you said this was something that they've done in the past, was this in theory, or did something like this already happen, get kicked off, and nobody got sued? Just a question.
I have seen other developments like this. Dan, do you have any experience?
Assisted living. That's a private community, assisted living.
I'm not aware of any prohibition on it. I mean, as a general rule, you can't discriminate in housing, but I think there are. I can look into that. I don't have the answer.
I've seen other developments like this, so I'm thinking it's okay.
Yeah. I have, but in other
Yeah.
states.
What'd you say? No. Okay. Any other questions from anybody up here, out there? If not, is there a motion?
I would like to make a motion that we table this for another month. I really want Dan to look into this. This is unknown territory. This is not that I'm loving the idea of it, but I just don't think we have enough facts here, and I'd like to get certainly our lawyers' approval, that this is not something that sounds great, but it's really not enforceable, or I'd just like a little clearer explanation on it, and I don't think that it would hurt to table this for another month. But that would be my motion.
Is there discussion on the motion? Is there discussion on the motion? If not, all in favor of the, I'm sorry, we're having to vote here. All in favor of the motion, please raise your hand. Okay, it's unanimous. We'll finish up next month, and I suspect I've seen it elsewhere, so I think we'll be all right. But we just want to be sure. Okay. All right. Moving on to new business. Thank you so much for your presentation. And will we require him to be here next month when we take it?
You've already completed the public hearing, right? You closed the public hearing.
Okay.
So that
So
part
is
done. So
is it the consensus of the board that we could vote on it one way or the other without them having to be here?
Mr. Mayor, would it be in our rights to add any more conditions?
it would.
So if we do that, then he would probably need to be here, right?
Okay, so it's up your choice then. But okay, good enough.
Be here.
All right, moving on to new business. Jerry?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, members of the board. In 2019, a comprehensive classification and pay study was conducted by the Piedmont Triad Regional Council, which was conducted by David Hill and Bob Carter. They were management consultants. We went through TJ Council of Government, and then they subbed it out to the Triad Regional Council. The results of the survey 3 years ago indicated that Andrew had a very young workforce, with 72% employed less than 5 years. With the findings of the survey, many changes have resulted in succession planning, opportunities for advancement, elimination of the higher rate, increased the pay grades by 3%, and expanded the pay ranges. The overall cost for adjustments totaled just over $60,000, which included also fringe benefits. The study will review the salaries, pay classifications, and pay ranges within the following municipalities: Clayton, Dunn, Fuquay, Varina, Garner, Holly Springs, Sanford, Smithfield, Wake, and Harnett counties. The list was much larger 3 years ago, and some of the larger localities were eliminated based on their pay ranges that we had. And then the cost to the town was significant with those larger localities, so we had to actually dummy it down to localities just within our vicinity. The financial impact is $5,000. This is not a full-blown pay classification study. This is just revisions to what we have in place, and that would be my recommendation. Talk to Mr. Carter and Mr. Hill 2 weeks ago. They can jump right on this probably before October and have it completed by November for board's review.
And what is the cost on this?
$5,000. The last study to do a full blown was just $8,500.
Mr. Manager, I know this had come before us, or you wanted to present this a little earlier, and I think I'm the one that stopped it, and didn't stop it, but slowed it down a little bit, because my question to you would be, why can't our people in-house do it? Can you give us a reason why we can't?
The first study that was conducted, we did not have a HR director or HR personnel. We actually subbed that out to a contractor. Now we have an HR director. She will be a part of this pay study, and then for the next time we want to conduct a study in 3 or 4 years, we can do it in-house and save the cost.
And is there any motion?
I need to say something. Jerry, I took it upon myself to start working on this. I've already contacted the League of Municipalities and got the information, and it's pretty simple, really. I don't see why we can't do it ourselves. But that's what I'm working on. So I think we could use that money elsewhere, and that's just my personal opinion. What I'm putting together right now.
And I would just say my response to that is the league's numbers are not up to date. And when you use these consultants, you're looking at your pay ranges by your education and your experience to make sure the pay ranges when they from your minimum, mid to your highest or appropriate for the job classifications based on experience. Also, we have some pay classifications that we have added since 2019 that we need to incorporate into our pay study. And Jim, I get it, and I've looked at those numbers. When you look at those numbers, they don't tell you, based on the population within North Carolina, what the education and the experience is with those ranges. That's why I want the Bob Carter and the Mike Hill to look at, to make sure we're within those ranges. Yes, we could go through the league's website, but they're just not up-to-date numbers for us. I'm sorry? No, I said David. I'm sorry. I meant David Hill and Bob Carter.
Is there a motion?
Well, it's up to you guys what you.
Well, Jerry, I hear what you're saying. I am hearing that, but I do appreciate and look at the task that Jim is not completed. He's taken it on and is looking into it, and I would prefer not to spend $5,000 on just a salary survey. I'm not making little of it. We know we're not paying people enough money. I don't think that is not a concern here, but I would like to let Jim go ahead with the work that he is doing. And let's take a look at that before we drop $5,000 for another firm to evaluate this, because Jim took it on, and I'm impressed, and I would like to see what he has to offer before we go spend $5,000 to do this.
Did you say Melissa could actually do this in 2 to 3 years?
She will be a part. If you approve this, she'll be a part of that.
Mm-hmm.
So then she will be able to.
I think she ought to assist the commissioner. I think she ought to assist Jim. If she can do it in 2 or 3 years, why can't she help assist him in getting this instead of us going and paying $5,000?
I don't know.
I think we
maybe
saved
Alyssa could be.
$5,000.
Mr. Coates, I totally agree with you, and I'm on board with it. But I can say this: whatever we do, we got to do it, and we got to do it quick.
Yep.
We're going to lose valuable people. if we
Well,
don't.
I mean, certainly we know that.
Yeah, I know.
And the budget has already been laid out for this year, we know, but I do think it's worth. Jim took on a mission there, and I'm applauding him for even taking interest in doing that.
Yep.
And so I would say let's look at that and get what he has.
The worst you can do is say, no, it doesn't look like what we need.
Right. I mean,
at least I tried.
Absolutely, and I say let
We
him
commend
try
you for
that
doing
before
that.
we approve this spending.
Jerry, I hear the consensus of the board is that we allow Jim to continue and look at that before we consider
Okay. That's fine.
Okay.
And before we move on to the next item, there is, under the Fair Housing Act, exemption for 55 and older housing, as long as 80% of the units have residents, at least one occupant who is 55 years or older, as long as they publish and adhere to policy procedures that demonstrate their intent to operate as 55 or older, comply with regulatory requirements for verification. That is, there's also an exception for 62 years or older, but that has to be solely occupied by. So it is permissible to have these age restrictions.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to go back and deal with the issue?
If the applicant left.
Yeah,
Yeah,
with
since
him
he
up,
left, he doesn't have a say-so. I think
But I just
because he left.
found
I
out
don't-
and wanted to let,
Yeah.
Did we?
I just wanted to let the board know.
Okay. All right, we'll still deal with that next time then. All right, number 2, under new business, water distribution core system replacement budget ordinance. This is money we got from the state. Who's doing that? I take it
Hans.
Hans is doing it. Okay.
Mayor, before he speaks, is there a timeline that you could have that finished?
By the next meeting, I hope.
Okay. Is that okay? Thank you.
Okay, Hans?
All right. Well, we saw from tonight's meeting that we're growing. That's apparent, so that's good. And with this growth, naturally, there's the infrastructure. And we've been focusing on that significantly. We've looked at the past fiscal year and look at the future. And this is what more or less, these budget ordinances are about. This one and the following one. It has to do with our infrastructure. So, in essence, just as Mr. Mayor, just as you had noted, this is state money, and not property tax dollars. This is not coming out of the general fund at all. So I just wanted to make certain to notate that, or at least make it very clear. Anyone can notate it as well.
So basically, what are you asking us to approve for both of these?
Both of these, just approve the funds. Approve the funds for the water distribution core system replacement. That's that one. And then, of course, on the next one, approve the elevated water storage tank replacement. Again, separate funds. And in doing so, we're managing the money separately for transparency.
Hans, how much money is it going to cost to replace this core system here? $4,250,000?
4 million, yep.
All right, how much money did we get from the state?
This, to my understanding, is a reimbursement. So we'll spend the money, prove that we spent it accordingly, we get reimbursed.
Every dollar.
This is just putting the money from the state into
A fund.
Fund A and Fund B.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. Can we
Right.
make a motion and do them together?
Dan? Okay. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we go ahead and approve the budget ordinance for both water distribution and the elevated water storage tank replacement.
Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, please raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Okay? You're welcome. Okay.
Thanks, Hans.
All right. We have 4 annexation public hearings, and I believe last time you said we had to do these separately, right, Dan? Okay. This is basically a formality, and it's
Further consider, you could probably, if you're setting a date for each one, as long as you're saying that each one of these is set for that date.
okay.
I think we go ahead and do that.
All right. Is there a motion?
I make a motion that we set a date for all the parties involved for the resolution of the annexation of the public hearing.
That's resolutions 22, 23, 24, and 25.
Yes.
For the next meeting of the board.
And what is that?
October 4th.
October 4th.
October 4th.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion of that? For explanation to those out here, the clerk has looked into the formalities of the applications and has concluded that they have met basic formalities. And now we're setting the date for a public hearing on each of these annexations. So the motion has been made that we put all of them on the October 4 meeting of the town council. Any discussion?
No.
All in favor, raise your right hand. Okay, it's unanimous, Madam Clerk. All right, that went well. Okay, manager's report.
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor and members of the board. Number one, the Government Finance Officers Association Award. The town of Angier received an award of excellence in financial reporting for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2021. I'd like to congratulate Hans and all of our staff who have worked so very hard to accomplish this task. We have sent this information to the Daily Record and just waiting for it to be published. So I know they're behind.
We need to give them a hand.
So our utility projects, what you just approved as far as an ordinance, the 500,000 gallon elevated water tank project was awarded by the board and engineering has begun. Angier was awarded $2.4 million from the General Assembly. Engineering would take approximately 4 to 6 months, construction 12 to 15 months. And B, the water distribution core system replacement project has been advertised for qualifications, which are RFQs. Submittals will be received in September, board approved in October. Angier was awarded $4.2 million from the General Assembly. So tonight you established two funds for these two projects because now we're actually spending money to get reimbursed on.
Yep.
And number three, the locally administered projects program, which is called a LAP project. We applied last year, and this is for the Angier Elementary School sidewalk project. We were unsuccessful in 2021 for this sidewalk project, which is a very competitive application as we compete with the municipalities within the Triangle region. So we're competing against Apex, Holly Springs, Cary, and Raleigh. This project is proposed to start at the Angier Elementary School, move east along McIver Street, then south along Wilma Street to Catherine's Retreat. If approved, the sidewalks will help to connect neighborhoods, residents to the downtown, to churches, and to Jack Marley Park in a safe manner. So we do plan to apply for this.
I might add that I'm part of the Campo meeting every month, and there has been a severe restriction on the amount of LAP money that's available. So if we were not top notch and fulfilling every requirement, then we were probably not going to make it this time.
We were a couple points below what was approved. Sean and I have met with Campo to better understand why we didn't get the points that we felt like we should have. And I believe Sean and I felt like we could add another 15 points. And if we do, and the scoring is about the same as last year, we'll definitely get approved for the project.
Good.
So.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Manager?
That's it.
Okay, staff reports. Let's see, who's first in the book here? Is it?
Resources.
Are you first?
I don't have no idea. I'm coming up first. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm going to be brief. Police activities for the month of August consisted of 4,268 calls for service / officer-initiated activities. Officers investigated 44 offenses. During these investigations, 22 individuals were arrested on a total of 39 charges. 9 arrests were made for outstanding warrants. 3,462 subdivision / security checks were logged for the month of August. 26 traffic accidents. And I'm not going to go into the rest as far as the citations, but notes at the bottom. We started writing citations for town ordinances. So a few people have expressed their opinion on us writing them citations, but we're writing them. With the help of the ABC board, we're establishing Angier's first ABC officers to help enforce ABC law throughout Angier. Also, they'll have jurisdiction in Coates as well, because there's a couple bars in Coates. These 2 officers have already been selected, and school started back, so we were excited that school started back, and getting everybody adjusted with traffic and whatnot. Any questions for me? All right.
Lee, I have one quick question. I know we started writing citations and all. How we looking on some of the areas for vehicles blocking intersections?
That's we're actually we got the bicycle out, and we've actually got a couple guys starting to do bike patrol. It's hard to deal with intersections on a car, because
that's understandable.
All you're gonna do is get stuck in traffic yourself. So we got a couple of officers each day, so they're splitting the task up. That's gonna be they're gonna be writing citations for these issues.
Made any progress in letting people know in newspaper or whatever?
Yes, we ended up calling the Daily Record.
Okay.
And I also want to thank you and your officers for stopping in all the businesses, making themselves known. I've had a lot of business owners really appreciative of that. Thank you for that.
Appreciate it. You have a good.
Thank you. Yay. Finance. I take it.
There we go. There's been a slide added. So there's a cash flow and investment of idle funds added to that, to all those charts. And there are going to be some more. There are going to be some more graphs. It's great. Again, the transparency, phenomenal. Gotta love it. So we're getting there on that. And it's great to note, naturally, somewhat sad for some, good for us as far as our investments go, is that we try to keep about 8% thereabouts cash flow within our operating account, and naturally the rest is invested. And so last fiscal year, off of 8 million, thereabouts 8.5, it fluctuated. We would receive approximately, just to give an average, last fiscal year about $53 for 8.4 million. Now,
that's interest, in other words.
Yeah.
Interest, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, right. Good point. In my mind, I already know that's interest, but thank you, Mr. Mayor. But now we actually have most recently, as far as August is concerned, we have received was about 15,000. So a very stark difference. That's good, especially considering what we have budgeted, which was very conservative, near to nothing. So that's looking very promising. So I just wanted to make sure to point that out. That's a fun little chart and whatnot. And there are more charts to come, of course, for transparency's sake, and so on and so forth. So again, looking at just July numbers, we are already on the upswing, aside from any looming thoughts of future economic and whatnot situations. I'm not going to go there. So, but regardless of that, ad valorem, we're up 15,000. Local option sales tax, we're up 30,000 compared to last fiscal year. Again, so that's very good. Planning fees and permits, again, July here, 5,000. Code enforcement, all right, fine, 2,000. There, water sales, 27,000. And interestingly enough, sewer sales, also 27,000, approximately. So, all in all, the main operating funds, general fund, water, sewer fund, we're doing fairly well. So, we'll just keep on with our direction as we go on this fiscal year, and the future graphs, at least one in particular, will be a graph that will depict our project progress depicted through money, essentially. So
are we doing anything with the money that the state is giving us? If we're not, well, we have some questions we need to ask ourselves. So that will be our future graph.
Okay. Any questions of Hans? If not, thank you, Hans.
Thank you.
Good job. Who's next?
Good evening, Board. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. You've got my staff report in front of you, just a couple highlights. We're preparing for the Crepe Myrtle Festival, so last month or so we've been trimming some bushes and getting some mulch out, getting those things prepared for this weekend. And also we had the civic signs replaced on the entrance signs, so we got that taken care of here the last couple days. And other than that, that's all I've got, unless you've got any questions for me.
Yeah,
Jimmy, the person that you want to hire, is that a replacement?
No, sir.
Or is that
Just
new-
wanted to know
new-
those that you
new?
approved in the budget. Yes, sir.
Jimmy, I forwarded you an email I got from a Jonathan Fisher that lives on 256 West Depot Street about the flooding. What did we find out about that?
So whenever I called Mr. Fisher and spoke with him, that day we actually had the flooding. I actually went out there to the site and took pictures of that, and it was actually standing in his front yard talking to him.
He sent me
Yes, sir.
pictures.
Yes, sir. So it's one of those that I let Mr. Fisher know. I said, I don't think it was anything to do with the construction. I've seen it for the 25 years I've been here. I've seen that area flood about 4 or 5 different times just from the amount of rain. So if you get an inch of rain and it's a slow rain, then everything, the drainage pipes will handle that. If it's a inch of rain within 15 minutes, then the pipes are not going to be able to handle that.
Is this where we're doing the extension and adding the new pipes in
That
for
is correct,
drainage?
yes, sir.
Then why is it backing up?
Well, because we had the flash flood.
But I thought that's what we were trying to avoid is,
Well, the construction is not through yet, so you'll have multiple pipes going through there. But it's like anything else, is if you get a flash flood, there's no guarantee that it's going to be able to handle that. It'd be like anything, anywhere else. If you had a downpour of an inch of rain within 15 minutes, the pipes here will not be able to handle all that.
Even like downtown or something like.
That's correct.
So once
I've
we,
seen it before. Excuse me, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I've seen it over the years where back here in Crestview, it's flooded there. Where we had 4 or 5 inches of rain within an hour, it's just flooded. But within an hour, after the rain stops, the water goes. So the pipes move the water quickly, but not for those sudden downbursts.
So you're saying that we haven't completed it yet. So once it's completed, maybe it will alleviate the hoping.
Correct.
Okay.
But provided, like I said,
It's not guaranteed.
Mother Nature takes care of all that.
Right.
Slow, an inch of rain over an hour, it'll handle it.
Right.
But a downpour, it just.
Right, and we had a
I've seen that-
downpour.
I've seen that all over.
Okay. Okay. Well, hopefully it'll be completed, as
do
quickly
you
as
have
possible.
an idea when it's going to be completed? Just a ballpark?
Hopefully they'll be done, probably November-ish or so. They've got some of the pipe in along 210. They've moved a little slower because of traffic.
Right.
there. They've got some curb and sidewalk in, along, Park Street, so they're there. And right now they had to relocate a water line. So a water line was in conflict, with one of the cross line pipes. So last couple of days, they've been in there diving the water line down underneath the new proposed line that's gonna be going through.
Next question. The backflow there by Ed's, was that taken care of?
Let me check with the guys, because I had it on the list.
It wasn't done.
Okay.
The only reason why I know because there's so much moss right there on the sidewalk and the water keeps running out and people are complaining about it.
Okay.
So just want to.
Yeah, all it is you get trash in the
Yeah.
backflow and it discharges, so it has happened several times, so. Okay. We'll get that taken care of. And I've got Mr. Jay Powelson's number from Blair Drive from earlier, so I'll contact him tomorrow and try to set up a time to go see him.
Okay.
We've got, along that sewer line, I thought it was at the other end, closer to where you live, but once I found where he was, the main sewer line that runs through there, we've actually got vents on the manholes, so it vents some of the gas. So that's periodically, you may smell some of that. We do that to help with hydrogen sulfide gas that builds up.
Mhm.
When a pump station dumps into the main line there, you're going to get a little bit of a smell, which we add chemicals and stuff at the plant to help alleviate that.
Yeah, because he's right. There is a big drop there because even my neighbor next to us has an issue with every time it rains, that property, the water runs off into her backyard and floods.
Well, the times I've been back there to inspect the sewer lines, the ditch there is not very deep.
No.
I mean, and that's been like that
For years.
As long as I've been here, it was not a main drainage canal like you would see in other areas around there.
Right.
It's just been shallow.
But it's been kind of nice though because we haven't had no rain. Everything's dried up now, so it's nice.
And then we try, with all our sewer lines, we try to mow them at least a couple times a year and then at least visit them 3 to 4 times. Depends on how we can get out there. So we go out there and mow them and then ride through them and maintain them and check to make sure.
Gotcha.
But anytime any of the residents see an issue like that, please call us ASAP. So we try to avoid any type of spills or anything else like that.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Jimmy, something quickly, and it has really nothing to do with you, but could have something to do with you. I had a conversation with Jerry last week, and not knowing what that would go to. I don't know whether anyone has noticed. We talk about parking problems downtown, and I came downtown the other day, and I literally couldn't tell what was a parking space, where, or because there's so little paint left anywhere on the concrete down here. I moved my car twice to actually get into the parking. Even non-parking spaces are not defined. And I called Jerry and I said, Jerry, now who maintains this? I mean, cars are so wrongly parked because you can't see where the parking is. And he said, well, that is DOT. That is not us. And I said, well, when do we step forward and do a little something on our end? Because we know if we wait for DOT, it may never get done. But I couldn't even find the parking space. And then I started looking and I thought, I don't see any parking spaces. And I see people parked in zones that aren't parkable or handicapped, they're so faded and worn and gone. That
in front of the DMV?
Well, it is pretty much that look. Yes, okay. And the whole cross downtown, and Jerry said, well, it's not, and he said, but it might be something that he said. I understand if we start doing it, will they ever fix it again? Well, we can't always look at it that way because I think just for better parking and getting people and just maybe something that's a street at a time or a side at a time. I don't know how that works, but I'm just throwing that out there because I brought it up to Jerry and he said, well, there might be something that we could do because I know occasionally we must do crosswalks or something. I don't know who does them. Anyway, thank you if it's an option. And you might ride around and look and say, yeah, I can't see a parking space down here.
Okay.
If I remember right, we talked about 210 right here by the bank where they used to be parking and they took the parking signs out. Maybe DOT was supposed to come in and stripe it and straighten it out so there's straight and a right turn lane and a left turn lane.
Right.
Yeah, that's on there. I had a conversation with DOT probably 3 weeks ago. So they're supposed to restripe that area in front of First Citizens Bank and also down there by the Red Barn.
Right.
And then also stripe over there to crosswalks by the school. Chief and I have been talking about that for several months. So they've got to do a little more work around the Red Barn there. So once they get that, they're going to come back in and do all that striping in those 3 areas. So do all that one time. They'll do the thermo striping, which a lot of if we do any striping, ours is just a paint can. Right. The thermo striping is a little bit more reflective, like you see on the roads.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Sean?
Back one last time. Your planning and inspections department is operating ahead of schedule budget-wise, exceeding revenue projections. Did 60 permits during the month of August, 11 new homes, 1 commercial project over 21,000 revenue. I always include the percentage of the budget on the bottom of my first page of my staff report. Continuing to exceed budget expectations, continuing to exceed new house projections. Despite what the media may tell you, I have not seen the slightest dip in housing new starts or development inquiries in Andrew. Take that for what it's worth. Back page give you an update on all the subdivisions we have in various stages of construction and approvals. I believe we're up to 24 major subdivisions approved since 2017, many of which have not been built out yet. Couple highlights I want to hit. Number 1, we hired Casey Todd to be our new community development coordinator. If you haven't met Casey, stop by the planning office and introduce yourself. I believe she's met a couple of you already. She is taking Heather Kiefer's position and running with a lot of the events throughout the end of 2022 that she had started. She will be at Crepe Myrtle assisting the chamber this weekend. Wanted to mention that Jim Nicholson of Brick and Mortar will be planning to come before you guys next month to close Broad Street for his 7th year restaurant anniversary in late October. Wanted to plant that seed now.
Could you tell us a little bit about Casey Todd and what's her background?
Casey Todd comes to us from the private sector. She has a great deal of sales and promotion experience. From what I remember going through her resume and her interview process, she is an extreme go-getter and has a ton of enthusiasm for projects, which you'll know immediately upon meeting her. So I have super high expectations for her. Want to plug my other staff on my way out here. You have an excellent code enforcement officer and permitting official in your planning and inspection department, and they are a one-man, a one-woman show doing their jobs. They have no backup, and they take that challenge on, full steam ahead with never any complaints. So I wanted to plug their hard work and their positions as well. Did just want to point out I will be assisting in any way I can with Jerry in the candidate review and hiring process for Andrew's next planning director. I think it's important to find someone with the same level of passion for what we do as planners.
Tough to find.
It is. There are many out there in larger towns waiting for their shot. Waiting for their shot to run a department. And I'm really pushing hard and begging people I've met along the way to apply that I think would be good candidates. Wanted to point out that as Andrew does a pay scale study, keep in mind we got that planner position coming January that the new director will be hiring. We got to compete with those entry-level guys to our north. They just keep bumping that minimum starting salary. Mm-hmm. And it's to the point now where, what I was making 5 years into the job, you got to pay a planner 1 out of school. So I just want to make that very clear. You're not going to get the top candidates coming out of UNC, ECU, and App State with a planning degree paying them what we've been paying them in the past. Also wanted to mention what we don't talk about often is our building inspection side of the house. We've been very lucky, blessed that Harnett County's agreed to stay contracted with us to do all of our plan review and all of our building inspections and all of our fire marshal code compliance and inspections. That ends at the end of fiscal 23. Brad Sutton with the Harnett County Building Services Department has made that clear. He just cannot keep enough staff to do his own county inspections with their explosive growth to also do Andrew's with our explosive growth. So keep in mind, you will be hiring a full-time head building inspector come July 2024. That has to be budgeted for ahead of time, and those positions, as you know, are just as competitive as all the other ones in our various departments. On my way out, I just want to plug my department heads. Thank you for all your support along the years. Could not have done what we accomplished without them, as well as Jerry's support and all of you throughout. Andrew will always have a really special place in my heart. I just want to say that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Sean.
Can I just put you on speed dial?
Keep it.
Let's see. I believe that's everybody.
Mr. Mayor, I do want to say noticeably absent is Derek McLean, and he's got some health issues in his family that he's,
Right.
so maybe your thoughts and prayers with his family.
Definitely.
Also want to mention I got a letter from Nancy Mabry, the HOA president at the village at Myrtle Grove, and was thanking us and Jerry and Jimmy Cook for the fine work on paving the road out there, repaving it, I guess. Okay. All right. Anything else? We have to take a break and go into a private session. You want to
Just-
make a motion about
I've got
the private session? Or?
One quick little
Sure.
comment to everybody here too, and I told Jerry I would mention it tonight at this. I know that there was some discussion, and I should have responded to the entire group about something that new computers had been budgeted, I think, for all of us. And I went back to Jerry, and I may have spoken to one or two of you. I personally don't feel like that's money that we needed to spend. We use these computers basically for emails and agendas and stuff like that, not to do work on. And I think as long as they're functioning and doing that purpose, I didn't realize that there was something that was in the budget, and I think it will save us. What was the amount of money?
I think it was $3,300.
Yeah, I mean I just felt it was money we didn't need to spend. So I thought I would mention that to all of you. I expressed that to Jerry, and I said, how easy it is that things like that come by us, and probably in that big lengthy budget that it was all there. We just didn't catch or see it. And I cautioned him. I said, and there may be other times that this comes up in the same idea that we do need to double check where we're spending money and how we're spending it, because that to me felt like unnecessary spending. And if there are other all I'm saying is keep a watch, Jerry, when those things do come back up. But this didn't seem to be like a necessary spend. But that's my opinion. I don't know whether you guys want to.
I agree.
Say yes or no, and we don't need to spend that money for that.
I'm using my personal computer. If someone needs one, why don't we try to get them an up-to-date one?
Unless one breaks.
Okay.
You know,
so
just leave them.
All right.
Well, it was budgeted because the board asked me to budget it.
Yeah,
So
we got more.
that's why I was in
pressing,
there.
Yeah, we got
Right.
more pressing things that we need to take care of.
Thank
but we
you.
appreciate it.
Okay. Anything else? Or is there a motion that we go into closed session?
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session
For
143-318-11 A3 A6.
Okay.
And asked that the chief and Detective Wilson stays behind.
All right. All in favor, please raise your right hand. Okay. Thank you all for being with us tonight. We're after about 5 minutes, we're going into closed session.